different, even though these suns still look the same. There's something sinister. Tell me, is there somewhere I can place the blame? Is this all that we've got? Is this all that we amounted to? I was down my luck, baby, I just needed a little boost from you. Oh, look, heaven's saints, oh my darling, they've got nothing on you. Oh my darling, they've got nothing on you. Asleep at heaven's gates, you were tired of trying, and I know how that feels, I do. But what a glorious sunrise. Forgotten how that warming light feels upon my skin. Oh, what a glorious sunrise. God, I had a soul inside this cold case I'm in. What a glorious sunrise.
What a glorious sunrise indeed. Welcome everyone to the 71st official episode of Eunuch Corner Club Live. Today I'm joined by someone that does not need introduction if you are in these circles, a wonderful man who has spoken charm, wisdom, and passion on many occasions with many people, including my friend Matthew, the Prudentialist. We'll be getting into some of that later when we talk about his work and what he does. But before we get started, I would just like to remind everyone, we are on a truncated timetable today, so I'm going to skip my usual introductions and shilling and whatnot. We're going to move directly to my guest today, which is Gio.
Yo.
Gio, welcome. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, boss. I'm always like, I always try to think of a good intro, but it's like it's never perfect, you know, you just have to go for it. But yeah, glad to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller, blah, blah, blah. So it's
same.
Such an old face of internet culture that never gets used.
I don't know if we've ever been on a proper stream together. I think we might have crossed paths a little on community streams around Matthew and AA.
The AA Christmas stream, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was one, yeah.
But I don't think we were together, though. I think we were,
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Gio and I, we we seem to kick around a lot of similar ideas and have some similar pathos on things. And I thought we could have a great conversation about conversation itself and why I view it as the most crucial art form. But before we get into that, I want my audience to hear who you are. So take maybe 5-10 minutes, Gio. Tell everybody why you're the content creator you are today, and what kind of content that you make and why in 2023.
Before, it's funny though. Before, like, I used to hear that term content creator, it, like, maybe want to take a shower. It's like, but now I've sort of like embraced it, because what other word is there for something that is like on a multi-level? How should I put it? That's very sort of like polymorphous, if you put in those like word cell terms. But anyway, so yeah, what I mean is I started off as, well, I mean, as an artist and writer. I came about like during the original Frog Twitter days. If those remember, like, if that like means anything anymore, because like that's the thing in internet time. That's like, it seems like 1,000 aeons ago.
Yeah,
So,
it does.
yeah,
Even the coup feels like forever ago now.
yeah. Do you remember Adam Wallace back in the day?
Adam Wallace.
Yeah, I like came in like with those like bloggers. I started writing for him, and then
Okay.
and then I went to Thermodynamic Magazine, and it was really like the time where you had, I guess, like reactionary bloggers were like centralizing themselves into like publications. Like Social Matter was one. I guess like the only one that really exists now is the American Sun. So anyways, I started off as a writer. Like, of course I was always an artist, but that
Mhm.
came, I guess from the beginning, that was the thing. And I got into like doing videos and podcasting. I guess like generally conversation later on, because I had this idea that, no, I'm not like those dirty YouTubers. I'm going to be an intellectual. I'm going to be a vlogger. And that, I wish I could trade in my 30K Twitter audience. I'm sorry. Yeah. Twitter audience for 30K on YouTube, because at least 30K on YouTube makes you money. So it's,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah. So then I got into podcasting. I like the first streams I'm on, like basically I was on like back in the day, basically don't exist anymore. Like one of them was for my friend Bernard Chapin, who left, like he left the internet.
Mhm.
Adam's podcast, I was on the very last one when I believe that was scrubbed too. All of that's gone. I could never find it. And it was the last episode of Plebeian Podcast was when Julius Evola was mentioned by the New York Times because of like some Steve Bannon hit piece. That was like,
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, I was in grad school. I had a friend.
That
He
was years
texted
ago
me.
now. That was what?
Yeah,
5 years ago now? Something like that?
2017 maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, or maybe 2017. Like I had a friend who was in my class, and he texted me. He's like, I never thought that I I never thought that the New York Times would be mentioning Julius Evola. So
Yeah.
then that night I went on the podcast, and then Adam Wallace left. Like he left everything. He like nuked all of his content. And then then I was at Thermometer Magazine, and then I started a podcast. All that stuff doesn't exist anymore. The very early things. And then for 2 years, I was with Break the Rules. And that ended terribly. And but no, it was good. It was a good like growth curve in terms of what I do. And now I do my own thing. I'm finally free, finally under nobody's yoke, if you will.
Mhm.
And now my flagship is a Content Minded Podcast. And I still like try to do standalone videos, but I have like other things, other series, like my one where I review books. So yeah, but my two main things are Content Minded and, of course, Digital Archipelago every Thursday with
Digital
Credentialist.
Archipelago is what I know you best from.
Yeah. And tomorrow's on my channel. So we're covering a bunch of articles. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's my journey. That's my quick CV.
Cool.
I basically went from grad school to like ending any chance at at any normal academic job. by being an internet
I
reactionary.
hear you. That's the boat that I'm in now. I've had a couple of different careers in the let's just call it in normal society, and well, that's all been torn to the ground now. So it's this or bust now.
Here you go. What
um,
was your journey? I've only seen you around the AA sphere. I've seen you like
well,
on streams, but you know.
you're at your YouTube here, but let's
Oh yeah,
we'll go
go
we'll
sure.
go ahead and shelf that for now. My journey was as follows. I'm from rural Appalachia. It's very Christian, very white, very libertarian. Get off my bottom land out here. And one of the things that pushed me away from this area is I'm an intersex person. My mother and her mother
I
was
didn't want to ask. I know like
sure.
but how does that work? Like you're a genuine intersex person from what
Yeah,
I know.
but well, let's
Okay.
shelf that for now because it's a little bit complicated. I don't want to get sidetracked.
No problem. Yeah.
Being an intersex person, I had a father who was a bit abusive in some ways and was kind of a shitty person in some ways. And because of the failings of him and a couple of other people in the area, I was pushed towards people to try to get help for my developmental gender issues when I was between like 9 and 14. And that
Mm,
pushed me into the bosom of the progressive TM establishment type of
I can
people.
imagine. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I wanted to get away from this rural area. As much as I loved this place and as much as I still have my roots here, which we'll get to in a minute, I left to go to college. And boy, that was a mistake. And I went into it
You
for
became
art.
a hicklib, in other words? Self-hating southerner hicklib?
Sort of like that, yeah, but not really. Even though I thought that certain elements of progressivism were good, which I don't anymore, I have never stopped being a gun-loving, right-wing libertarian type of person, despite surrounding myself with shit libs and trannies and other awful people that I did when I was young. But thankfully, I never the Kool-Aid they fed me never really took. So
Mm,
eventually, by the time I was 25 or 26, I started realizing, okay, wait a minute. Because remember, I'm in my 40s. So at this time, there was barely even 4chan a thing. So it was
yeah.
harder for me to find my way being someone who the transgender lobby sucked in. It was difficult for me to understand I wasn't like those people and those people were evil and pushing evil things. So eventually I moved away from that. And this was during the beginning of my awakening of, hey, I'm being lied to about everything. Because this was right after 9/11. This was the weapons of mass destruction lies. This was the war.
Man,
This was war in Iraq.
this is I was 8
So
years old at the time.
well, I was already in my 20s and I already had a house. So, and I've always been very productive and good at making money. Despite being an artist, I started off going into art. I'm a painter. I'm a comic
Oh,
book
wow, I
drawer,
didn't
that
know.
kind of thing. The avatar I use is my original artwork. I used to make all kinds of different fantasy characters and horror characters and things, but that's a long time ago. I also do good Bob Ross style watercolors and acrylic paintings on canvas and watercolor paper, but I haven't done that for a long time. But
Mm.
I've worn a lot of different hats in the last 20 years. I did nursing stuff. I did in-home healthcare. I did door-to-door sales. I did internet sales, real estate. My favorite job I had is I worked in death care, working for a big
You
cemetery.
worked at hospice care?
Yeah, I did hospice care.
Oh, man.
I've worked a lot of stuff, but the the thing that led me to becoming the dissident I am was about a decade or so ago, maybe 12 years ago now. I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and what I discovered there when I moved far away from Appalachia was basically the world that I thought existed was a lie, and the America that I had been raised to believe in was a lie.
Mm.
And I was faced roughly with anti-white, anti-male, anti-Christian institutional power at every turn. And it was quite the eye-opening that, wow, Grandpa was right. Everything is really ran by evil Jew bankers and anti-white shitlibs. Granddad was right. So it was.
Yeah, the Appalachian granddad turns out he was correct on
It
everything.
turns out he was right
Yeah.
about everything all along. So yeah, the my journey, like I've always liked the noble spirit, Hyperborean legends. I've always been inspired by the things that the quote unquote true right are inspired by: building empire, reaching the stars, glorifying things with wonderful crusades to punish evil and purify your lands of ne'er-do-wells. I've always been inspired by, noble
Uh,
samurai fiction and Western fiction of good guy sheriffs and rogue samurai killing the bad
so you were
guys.
just primed for the like Nuke Telly Biggie Slonk Hyperborean edits. Like that
Yes.
was
Yeah, exactly.
that was before they existed, even before
Right.
when when Biggie Slonk as a Zoomer was like in the womb. It's like
Yeah.
they were ready
I
to
was
be
out there
called.
trying to find my way doing something similar. Yeah. So anyway, becoming aware of all this stuff. I never, speaking of not drinking the Kool-Aid, I never got into the sort of Hitler cult worship, neo-fasci type of stuff. I've
Yeah,
always
that's
viewed
me neither.
that avenue of white identity as something toxic and poisonous. Not because I disagree with certain tenets of National Socialism or that I drink the post Nuremberg Kool-Aid about what actually happened. That's not why I never got on board with it, because I don't want to repeat the steps of the past, nor do I want to take on the mantle of failed and destroyed and slandered regimes that would only ruin me in my life. So I wanted
Well,
a
even
better
at that
way.
time, it was like not. Well,
Yeah, because
it's funny. I was
on
yeah.
in
Sorry, go ahead.
dissonant
Ian, yeah.
circles back in the aughts, I was part of the online meme crew and the "this is all stupid, what are we doing" people that were like the original alt-right on 4chan. And then it got sort of poisoned by Richard Spencer and people of that ilk, and it sort of became something else around the Milo Gamergate era. And so I became disillusioned with any type of political identity,
And
whether
then and
left or
that certainly
right,
happened in
alt-right, alt-left.
2017, and that was all over. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the last decade, I wanted to find a better way, and that's what led me to Jason Kuna and the white well-being community. It's what led me to Don the Pleb and his group. It's what led me to people like Prudentialist and Dave the Distributist, people who have good morals and good values. They understand the ethnic and racial and religious conflicts that we're in. They understand the sources of, well, why do we have the JQ talking points? Why do we have these Muslims screwing goats memes? Why do we have these stupid Christian memes? Like, they
Man, those are
understand.
ancient memes right now.
Yeah, I
Those,
know, right?
the
So, like,
Muslim ones, yeah.
yeah, like that feels like the before time now. But no, but the reason why I'm where I am now is I want to take the moral and intellectual high road. And I don't think that naming the J or naming the Muslim or naming the immigrant, that doesn't do anything, because we've had people since Henry Ford doing that and nothing happens. So where I've came to is we have to build communities and create culture, because that is what has been taken from us. And it doesn't matter how many people name the J, it doesn't matter how many people hate the immigrant, unless we are building something positive and constructing a framework for future generations to love, embrace, and fight for, then we're going to lose. So that's why I've taken the higher moral road of inspiring people to create artwork and culture and music and community, to purify your churches, to purify your community of all of these mental, spiritual toxins that we've been infected with, and create a better way going forward. So that's where I am in the whole
Yeah.
white identity, dissident right area type of thing.
Well, I mean, like, I have criticisms of all these groups, obviously, but I feel like, yeah, it's. I was talking about this the other day, actually, with with Slav and COH, and their podcast, because I mean, the Fed post when that collapsed, that was a tragedy. Like, it had momentum, but anyways, yeah, but not to get into politics of that, but no, but I was saying, like, how the meta irony of like Austrian painter memes. I feel like Zoomers especially have this like sort of reverence where, like, even like recently with the AI voice to speech, to, apparently the company had to can it now, the free use AI, where
Yeah.
because people, like, what do people do right away? They like have like basically like public figures, like Emma Watson reading Mein Kampf, or
Yeah, of course.
like you
Like,
know, of course, yeah.
that's why you never open up the internet to name your child or your business, because it'll always be named Big Mac Hitler, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, yeah, Moon Man, whatever, like
yeah.
Moon Man special, Moon Man McDonald's secret menu
Yeah.
/88, right?
The special
So-
sauce is Jews, that kind of
Yeah, like it's no, but I feel like as much as we could like have like for example, I know like I follow a bit of the politics of like the more out there quarters of the DR or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, this thing of ours. And I know
Yeah,
like
this thing of ours. That's a good
yeah,
that's a good
this
Italian
thing of
American way to
ours.
put it.
Yeah, like Thomas is right about this.
Yeah.
No, but like I know like No White Guilt got into this recently.
Uh-huh.
But no, but I think like in general, I bring up this point because when you do like look at Twitter, for example, a lot of those like ironic memes with the Austrian painter, there is like hundreds of thousands of views, and like even like normies, I feel not to say like publicly like going out there and like like Fed posting is going to do it, but I'm saying like I feel like in this moment of culture there is sort of like a reverence for the sacred cows of the regime.
And I think
And
that's a good thing.
yeah,
That
that is
needs
a
to
good
happen.
thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, but you know what's funny though, the reason I mentioned my appearance on These People Are Sick with Slav and COH is because back in the day you had like standard like 90s liberalism, but you still had moments of culture where these things were like either inherently funny or
Mhm.
they were like tolerated as discourse that was a spectacle, right?
Mhm.
And I know like some people like people in the far right, they say no, like we have a serious engagement with these ideas. But I'm saying like if you look at like old school trash TV from the before it became about like people like fighting over relationships, it's like you had like neo-Austrian painters versus a black Hebrew
Yeah.
Israelite.
Yeah.
It was like this, and like
It was
even
just a
like
comedic spectacle.
yeah, but I feel like that culture, like that, like the reason that had to go away is because in some ways, like the new sincerity of the 2000s under the millennials had to like resensitize people to this type of content. And then what happened during Gamergate and what happened during like the original wave of the alt right and what happened under Trump was this sort of like weaponized irreverence that is like basically, jaded millennials such as myself, Gen Xers that still remember like the 90s edgy, ironic humor,
Mhm.
like
That would be
MTV,
me.
yeah, like MTV, early Vice, very like edgy underground. What was that? What was that magazine that Jim Goad had? Call Me Magazine. Was that what it was called?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like that type of like edge lord, like early Usenet form that
I do
eventually
remember
4chan
the
spun
era
off.
of the late '80s and all through the '90s of the shock magazines, the shock
Yeah.
jock radio, all of that shit. Like that,
Oh, that stuff was great. Like
yeah.
Disinfo.
Especially like how
Yeah.
spicy late night MTV would get. I mean,
Oh
late night
man,
MTV, they
yeah,
were talking
brutal.
about Hitler and swastikas and all this other, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is on TV and people are talking about this.
Yeah, but like even you had like adult animation, like like heavy metal, Fritz the Cat, like that stuff I feel like had to like I was talking about this with a friend about the early internet and early Vice magazine. And that stuff had to essentially go away for a reason. Like that
Hmm.
because even though you could say like the regime was like really ramping things up in the 90s, you still had like MTV would make fun of like lesbians with guitars,
Yeah,
acoustic guitars type of like riot girl
there was still
feminism.
healthy diffidence that was allowed and supported, but now that's all gone.
Yeah. Yeah, like and then even like you had like the inklings of like Western chuds like being acquainted with anime. Like you had Akira was like really big at like
Yeah.
98. So you had
Don't forget Princess Mononoke.
yeah, Prince Mononoke. Yeah, exactly. Like it was you had like I think the latent aesthetic of like basically gutter core internet culture, but it was already there. It was like that's why I feel like there's such a huge nostalgia for the 90s.
Yeah.
And the thing is though, as much as we could quabble over the optics of certain things, there's like the two extremes of like, well, they're gonna call us Austrian Painter fans anyways, so who cares? Like that's
Yeah.
sort of like the model of like a lot of
And
different
let me tell
cancel
you where I
podcasts.
stand on that. Like, I am
Yeah.
not an optics cuck in the way that many people say it,
No,
because
of course,
optics
but I
matter.
understand like if you're in a public,
Like,
like if you're on YouTube even still, like you still have to be aware of, you know
well,
what I
where I
mean?
was
Like
going with that is optics always matter. because you always need to impress an audience, whether that's your church, whether it's the people you're speaking to, whether it's your family, or whether you're a politician and you're trying to impress or sway masses. Optics always matter. And in the last 10 years, the thing I have learned is the well has been poisoned so thoroughly, there's no fixing it.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of
true.
guys whose work I respect, even if I don't like them as a person. There are people like this Natsock guy, Nature and Race, he or Racial Consciousness. I forget his
I think
exact.
he blocked me on Twitter back in the day. I don't know.
He blocked a lot of people, but he's back now. And
Yeah, he's back now. Yeah, I remember
and shared.
Wilcott liked me, but the Racing Consciousness guy doesn't like me. I don't know.
Well, he doesn't like a lot of people, and I don't know him personally. I might not, but where I'm going with this is you have people that embrace a National Socialist and swastikas and Third Reich stuff. You have people that embrace that as a narrative, as an identity, and they wear that. And I see, despite the wisdom in any post that he shares, despite how correct he is of things, I have discovered that the optics block in the mind pool that's in people will
It's
prevent
never going to translate.
everything. It will prevent almost everything good that you have to say spreading because of how the well has been poisoned. And so for my ideas and for healthy ideas that can actually help white people and help to heal and get better, we have to have people listening and engaging instead of just shoving us off the table and us in the crazy bucket. So that's why I care about optics in that way, is I want to be the sense of room. I want random people that hear me, whether they are that maybe works for Forbes, whether there's someone who's a church leader, maybe they're a youth minister. I want my words and my identity to be palatable and to people who can actually facilitate change in communities. And so that's why I have worked hard on having an acceptable message while still being a comedian and an edgelord that shares spicy sometimes. My discourse and I want to be one that's palatable to any audience, or any audience that I give a shit about. Not like a shit lib audience from California, but anyone who's a normal person that can actually build community and do something positive. I want my words, my identity, and my platform to be palatable to them. So that's where I am on the whole optics thing.
Yeah, like I'm not going to counter signal it, obviously, because a lot of those memes are quite funny, and it's like, even though I don't like identify, I'm not gonna, but I do understand, like, there are people that like I don't know, like Racial Conscious, I don't know, he blocks everybody, so I'm not gonna, like, I have no hate towards, like, for example, I had like a spat with Trad Western Art, but Brandon Hurt's pretty cool though. I mean, well, me and him are going to talk soon, so hopefully. I've been putting it off.
There's always beef and conflict because people in our circles are really hot-headed and passionate about stuff.
Well, yeah, obviously. I feel like, especially if you're still like on platforms that are mainstream, there's always like that resentment of it. Like if you're still on Twitter and YouTube, like I put a lot of effort into like having like my podcast monetized, but it's like I know that paywalling certain stuff, like I mean, I think like it depends what purpose you are. Like my purpose is not an activist per se. I'm an artist.
Right.
I'm a writer. I'm a conversationalist. I'm not like I'm not in any like leadership position, even though like I might take on that role just by virtue of the parasociality of the internet. I realize like you have to realize that if people are going to like take you seriously, like, I mean, I hover above a lot of edgy stuff, a lot of things I find interesting intellectually or like even aesthetically. Like I know that I'm taking a risk by like retweeting, certain like anime racists or whatever. But I do feel like you have to like give yourself space, but at the same time you have to say that, I myself am not in this role, but I'm, I find like I'm open to a lot of things. Like I'm open to a lot of like, shit liberty as well.
Yeah.
I'm known as like one of the first people, not one of the first, like there were people like way before me doing this. Like as much as like, okay, I'm going to be like, I'm in an amicable mood. Maybe being with you is, maybe that's why. But, as much as I do
have that effect on people.
Yeah. Like, for example, as much as I don't agree with like a lot of stuff like on current counter currents, right? Like
Right.
especially with the current conflict going on in Eastern Europe. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't agree whatsoever. But I will say that when it comes to like the old style of like dissident publishing, whether it was Countercurrents or Arctos, and I know like there's a huge feud between them or other places, they were doing genuine intellectual work.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about like early
And
2016 Countercurrents.
speaking of
Yeah,
countercurrents and all of the spheres that we're in and have been influenced by,
yeah,
the person who influenced me the most when it comes to the style of content creation I do is actually Millennial Woes. I was
yeah.
very
You influenced a
inspired.
lot of people. Yeah,
I was
yeah,
very inspired by him because he has his beliefs. He cares about white racial issues and consciousness, but at the same time, he's a sensible, emotional, passionate guy who knows that you have to do things to influence your loved ones, and not everyone is some 4chan schizo poster that could be influenced
yeah.
by spicy memes.
Did you
And
watch my Millennial with him?
yes, well, I listen. I don't watch, but
Oh yeah, listen. No, but that's like me and him were talking about this about like
yeah.
our like in like the history of like the scene, and also like when you're someone who is like more like me and him were similar. We're both like
Mhm.
feels men, so it's like
Yeah, and
it's yeah.
the reason why I wanted to make my content about being a unifier, like, my channel name is Yiz the Eunuch because I am gender weird and I don't want people to think I pretend to be something I'm not, so I wear that on my sleeve, and I don't want people to think that I'm some, transgender umbrella weirdo or whatever.
Well,
So
I wanted to ask you about that, like the
well,
like
let me finish my thought, then
yeah,
you can.
okay, go. Yeah,
The reason why I go by Yiz the Unifier in the white well-being community is I try to do in America what I think Millennial Woes has done a great job of doing, which is looking out into the dark corners of the internet of all of these dissident people and saying we need to start bringing those that are palatable out into the light and getting their ideas unified. We have to create a framework of language and ideas that can shape the culture that comes next that will be for us. Because all of the people that are shaping culture, or more correctly, destroying culture now, white people are not part of their future. We have to start getting ideas and people together that will create cultural tropes, memes, words, and everything that we can actually have cultural identity with. Because if we don't have identity, we are going to be conquered and replaced by those who do and have cultural power behind them. So I wanted to do a lot of what I feel like Woes does, especially with his millennial every year. I wanted to do that for people among the American patriot camps, the dissident political camps here in America, and do something similar with my time and energy. And now we can go back to what you said. So ask me again.
oh no, yeah, I agree. I think like there is like I feel like there is a lot of like let's say how should I put it, like a lot of like the black pilling, or a lot of like the obsession around like certain forms of the animus towards like the current regime is very much like it very much leads to like almost a proto nihilist, like a sort of like latent nihilist sentiment,
Yeah.
where you can't really like, okay, what are you fighting for, like it's literally just like looking up some, like, who is it on Twitter? Let me I'm gonna shout out somebody. By the way,
Sure.
shout out to Spasticus Autisticus, my good friend and patron. It's his birthday today. I saw him in the chat.
Oh, happy
So
birthday, Spasticus! I love his super
yeah.
chats. He's always fun. He's a good guy.
Let me look up. I think his name. He's got a Richard Spencer Abbey, but there's a few of them that where they'll like edit Jonathan Bowden clips, and like a lot of them are quite funny. But even like just like saying, like seeing a clip with dramatic music of Jonathan Bowden saying, this is what we are fighting for, who you are. Like it's like R.I.P. to a legend. Oh, sorry, his birthday's tomorrow. Sorry, Spasticus. No, but so I wanted to ask you, like, it would behoove me not to ask you because
Sure.
it's kind of like, of course, like that's always like the lingering. Like you probably get this a lot. Like it's probably like the lingering question.
Yeah,
But
I get it a lot. But
but
go
you
ahead.
are like a genuine intersex. You were born. Were you born?
I was born intersex. Yes, I had. Um, Now this is going to be a bit graphic, but we're all adults here.
Yeah, of course.
I have more male genitalia than female. I have an active Y chromosome, but I've
Hmm.
always been an androgyne. and I have what they used to call a hermaphroditism or gonadular hermaphroditism, where I have not regular they got removed, of course,
Mm.
ovotestes, and
Yeah, because that could lead to. I know some women.
ovotestes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is a gonadular intersex condition that stems from having confused or partially active both X and Y chromosomes in the same baby,
yeah, you
and
have to remove them because
my
they could lead to
gonads were not.
cancer. Yeah, if I recall.
Yeah, they weren't descended and formed like male testes, nor were they fully inside my pelvis like female ovaries. They were sort of in between. And people that have my condition always have pelvic vascular issues. So that
Yeah.
caused me all sorts of trouble during my developmental years because people always assumed I was a young girl anyway. And then when puberty happened, I got tall and got bigger like a boy, but I also grew hips and breasts and never developed an Adam's apple or much facial hair or anything like that. So I was always this weird in between. And because my body was always having start and stop puberties, because the most people that
Well,
have
the hormonal
ovotestes,
issues, right? That's
yeah, most people that have ovotestes, they only have one active gonad. The other one is atrophied and decayed, and that was the case with me. I had a blood vessel growing through one of them, and it just never took. The other one, an ovotesty, is a diminutive, not properly formed testy inside of an ovary, and during developmental years, it randomly kicks out big surges of estrogen and testosterone, and it creates just an absolutely miserable state of
my
development.
God, that would have
So
been terrible
I
during
had
your
night
teen
terrors,
years.
hot flashes, aggression. I couldn't sleep. Sometimes I would just see red and be so angry and violent I didn't know what to do. And like a lot of people who are gonadular intersex, our other hormonal interlocutors are messed up. And I had about 7 or 8 times the amount of DHEAS interlocutors, which are the androgen interlocutor for fight or flight syndrome. So even though I only had like a fifth of the testosterone of a normal developing male, it was like 5 to 10 times the amount of androgen activators for fight or flight response. So every day I was wired and paranoid and ready to fight people. And it was just
Man,
absolutely
that's
miserable.
crazy.
Yeah, it was horrible. So thankfully, by the time I was 20, I got professional medical care. They neutralized all my hormones with things like with a I forget what it was called. It was the generic of Lupron, where they just suspend all of your hormonal interaction. And then we tried to make it. And since I'm more male than female, the first thing that my doctors and I tried, which is what sensible people should do instead of this whole trans garbage, is we tried to get me on the hormone that matched my sex the best, which was testosterone. But it
Mm.
just made me insane. And that's when they found out that I
Well,
had
that's what my
that's
friend
when they
Helena
found out I had
said.
the
Yeah.
elevated DHEAS levels. And that's when they started me on estrogen, and I just became a much calmer, focused person, and I was able to live life and be normal. So that's why I am the weird feminized eunuch type person I am today. It's not because I was some weirdo or some fag that wanted to be a girl and wear a
No,
dress.
no,
It was just because
no.
this is how God made me, and I've had to do the best I have with it.
No, but do you lean towards female or male? Like, I mean, I thought you were a woman,
Well,
but
I lean
maybe
female
that's
because as you know, there are only two genders. And
yeah.
when I tried to be a man and be in part of the masculine gender socket of civilization, it was just an utter joke. People kept thinking I was some bull dyke or some lesbian that was wearing men's clothes, and it was just always a joke. And even though my voice, in my opinion, sounds more male than female, with the rest of the ensemble, ever since I was like 18 or 19 when I decided that, okay, probably going with the female route is going to work better for me. I've never really had trouble. Like job interviews, society, going shopping, talking to people in person. Nobody ever thinks that I'm a man or a trans weirdo. They just think that I'm just sort of a mannish looking woman. And there's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
think you're a
those. So
tomboy.
yeah,
Yeah.
they think I'm a tomboy or some, maybe closeted lesbian or something. And so gender for me has always been an impediment. It's never been like most of the trans people, they have like these weird mix of psycho progressive ideas and traditional gender norm ideas that make them
Yeah,
crazy.
non-binary and
Yeah, and for me though,
genderqueer.
I only ever wanted to feel normal and find what was the least amount of effort so I could go about my life and just do stuff. And that's why I went with the female gender socket, is because that's how people naturally codified me anyway. And it was less of a chore and less of a hassle and just let me go about life and do what I want to do. So that's why I'm the female
Yeah.
gender instead of the male gender.
No, but like that brings up an interesting question though. I mean, um I think like your experience is unique because you are like a genuinely intersex person by virtue of
Yeah.
birth.
And
so
there's actually a lot of us,
yeah,
but we're just quiet and don't talk about it because it's more of a medical issue than the
then an
transgender
identity
crazy,
issue.
like than the
Yeah,
like the psycho identity issue stuff. Most people that are intersex don't have gender problems like I do. Most people
right.
who are intersex, it's only either vascular or a hormonal developmental issue, and they get it treated and solved before they're 20, usually when they're like 12 to 15. And that's when it's noticed and that's when it's fixed. So like only like 1 out of 20 or 30 intersex people have gender issues like me. But there's a lot of intersex conditions out there. There's like 15 or 16 major ones. So it's not like intersex people are, super duper rare. It's like 1 out of 300 births or something has an intersex condition. It's not that uncommon.
Yeah, like they're women who are like fully developed women, like with all the parts, right, and that they have undescended testes, but they get removed because uh their risk at cancer and so forth. So
Yeah.
no, but what I mean is like of course you probably get like heat, for being in the scene.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But if look, it
No, but I mean what I
sticks and stones, love. If I wouldn't have made it this far if that kind of shit bothers me.
No, but yeah, but what I mean is I feel like it's different because you are like you were by virtue of birth rather than like an issue of like mental health issues and identity and social pressure. And like
Mhm.
if you were born nowadays, if you were a Zoomer, I mean, imagine what that would look like.
Well, even back in the
You know?
'90s and the early aughts when I was
Oh
learning
yeah,
about
it
life
was
outside of
still there.
Appalachia,
Yeah.
we already had those anti-whites who call themselves Marxists or progressives or whatever, trying to subvert me and pull me into the transgender experience. And I went with it for a couple of years until I realized it was just not for me.
That's what I mean. I feel like it's different. Like you shouldn't like get like the same, you know what I mean? Like because you are like you did struggle genuinely with it and like you more or less, I mean, identify as a woman now. And it's not like yeah, it's a very different case than like most like especially these young Zoomers. Like I was talking about this with my
I'd
Helena
like real,
Kirchner,
real quick before
the
you move on. I
detransitioner.
do,
Yeah,
real
yeah, go.
sorry to interrupt. Real quick before
Yeah.
you move on, I do not identify as anything. I do not
Oh, I see.
identify as a
Yeah.
woman. That is a very ugly transgender thing to say. I am only what I am. I let people codify gender on me the way they want. I never take offense if people call me male or call me a man or use he and him pronouns for me
Interesting.
because I don't find being a man to be insulting. I love men and women. We are men and women as a species. We need each other and both are beautiful and both are wonderful. So I don't take offense when people codify me as male, but most people never do. Like in person, the last time somebody confused me and said he him for me was when I was like 21. It was like 23 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So it's
I thought you were.
yeah,
I'm
it's
like, use the eunuch. Then people are like, well, Geo. I'm like, oh, really? Like that's crazy. I thought she was just, But I mean, you don't mind if I call you she though. That's
no,
or
no, not at all, because
yeah,
that's normal for me. That's been normal for me since I was young. Like even before I
yeah.
had all this horrible developmental crucible. And like my parents wanted a boy, but I was always an effeminate little weirdo anyway. And so I got teased for it. I got teased for it, and people would like when I was
Especially
in middle school.
Appalachia. My God, I could imagine.
When
I
I was
could,
in middle school, the jock boys would tease me and they'd pick me up at lunchtime and throw me into the girls' bathroom and call me a girl and a sissy and stuff. And I just laughed and went with it because I'm very intelligent. And I realized early on, if they actually hated me and wanted me to suffer, then they would do that. I recognized it for the hazing and the bullying that it was. That is how they were able to accept me as being different. So I just went with it.
Yeah, see, when I grew up, us millennials, like bullying was like the big. I have this thesis that anti-bullying that us millennials, the core like Gen Yers like myself,
Mhm.
I believe that led to a lot of the like model of moral panic around identity issues that we have nowadays. But that's just like a different. I'm not pro bully. Like, listen, I'm not saying like a lot of bullying is terrible, obviously, but I'm
I'm
saying
pro
like
bullying around here,
just
son.
a little bit, but like it's got to be within reason. Like, I mean, there's got to be some bullying. Like, bullying is like integral to the social hierarchy,
Mhm.
but like when it comes to like driving a kid into anheroing, that's obviously different. But I'm
Oh,
talking
that,
about
that
like
that's different.
run of the
That's
mill.
not bullying. That's like abuse. That's
That's
different.
sociopathy. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. But like run of the mill like bullying that our parents experienced, like that's I mean that's necessary. I feel um no, but what I was gonna say is I feel like yeah, you have a unique experience, and nowadays it's like the sort of like social neurosis around these issues, especially with like the ascendancy of like any trans issue, is very like prominent. And like the but then like of course the reaction in the e-right is like, posting ack memes, like the the
Yeah.
hanging ack memes, and like not and like I mean we could, I think maybe like even that to me, I feel, although I would be lying to you if I admit that a lot of that's funny. I do feel like it is like a counter reaction that does lead to like a lot of anger and frustration that I feel is warranted. But how am I going to say it without optics cucking? It does, I feel like there should be, like, I mean, maybe this is my Christian side coming out,
Hmm.
but you should, like, you should pray for people to lead down a more healthier and righteous path. And I
Yeah.
feel like when people do genuinely regret, and here's the real tragedy of it. I'll give you a good example. When people do genuinely regret the choices they made, like for example, I was telling you, one of the best podcasts I ever did was with my friend Helena Kirchner, who is the detransitioner. Do you know
Uh-huh.
Helena?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she
No,
was
not
talking,
personally, no, but I am aware.
but
Yeah.
you know of her, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course.
Like she was talking about when she was taking, she took like more tren than like a bodybuilder. That's like, and
Yeah.
no medical test, by the way, which is incredible. Like she
She's
went to
lucky to be
Planned
alive. That
Parenthood.
can kill you.
Yeah, like she went to Planned Parenthood, and she was saying like at Planned Parenthood, like they don't give you any screening or anything, and they just feed you these, testosterone pills, like more than a bodybuilder. And she was
Yeah.
going nuts, like she was like tearing the house apart, and it was like
Of
just
course she was going
mentally in
nuts.
hell. Yeah, no, because like you take a young girl in those, even a girl in early, she was like 14 years old, still like in puberty almost. And just like you take them and you give them this like like, and people don't talk about the health effects of it either, in terms of when like the human body, like the male body needs testosterone to develop, and like the organs need it to function. A female body needs estrogen in certain
Hmm.
functions, especially when it comes to ovarian cancer and the preventative breast cancer, ovarian cancer, a lot of these different things that are have something to do with irregulated hormones. Nobody talks about this stuff. Like even for example, men that have low testosterone are treated with testosterone because of the development of bone issues, certain cancers. Like I truly think that giving whole generations of young girls and young boys a lot of these hormones, it's going to lead to like essentially a cancer and autoimmune disorder bomb, in my opinion, in the future.
Okay.
And people don't
And I
realize
mean,
this.
I agree,
Yeah.
obviously.
No, but I know, but I'm saying that it's different when, like for example, you, that by virtue of your birth, you have a different sort of relation to it, and I feel like it's interesting when you speak about these issues of LGBT identity
Well,
and so
thank you.
forth, because you do have that experience that most people don't.
I do, and I think that
Yeah,
it's important for people like me who have gone through that and realize the evils of it and how it's part of something sinister. We need to make our voices known about it, because just like how you have like at Alcoholics Anonymous or at meetings of people who have gotten out of prison and are cleaning up their lives, people who are part of negative organizations and live through it, they are good proponents to talk about the evils of it from the inside because they experienced it. Now, speaking of, I don't know if you've seen this video of mine or not, but it's pretty short.
I think I have. I may have. Oh my god! Gotta play it just for the YouTube copyright doesn't strike.
Yeah, it can't be more than 3 seconds, or we'll get hit
Yeah.
by the Zog bots.
Oh boy. But yeah, that's another debate recently between ZOG and GAE. That's another funny debate that happened recently. But
Oh, I know.
yeah, but no, but what I'm saying is yeah, people don't realize this. Like for example, the bone depletion that happens when you don't give women proper estrogenal like
Yeah.
development. Like a lot, like people don't realize this, but I feel like if there was a brave enough medical researcher, if you were to examine the cancer rates of people of this certain identity group and those who aren't, I feel like in the
Well,
future
I can speak
Yeah.
with authority on this because, like I said, I did nursing for a while, and in Albuquerque, I had a mix of progressives and Christians and some people that
Yeah, Albuquerque is very weird when it comes to
it's
the
very weird. It's like a lot of different Venn diagram overlap there, but I like making a difference. I've always wanted
Did you go
to
to the UFO
volunteer.
festival? I always
No,
wanted to go to that. You didn't
no,
go?
I didn't, but I am aware of it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
got involved with volunteering my time at a hospital and a local clinic that helped people that were intersex, gender confused, etc., with a focus on helping, of course, their language, not mine, helping trans and LGB youth find their way. And I volunteered because I wanted to try to help steer people away from that path. And
What
when
year
I
was
got
this?
involved, this was between 2014 and 2017 when I
Oh,
did.
okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, because
And
this was when this became, yeah, yeah.
that's when it became really big, and that's when people were, it was growing out of everything. So during that time, I learned a lot of things because I was working with a clinic and with a hospital, and the amount of psychological damage, neurological conditions like autism and other kinds of ADHD, and even worse things that lead to personality disorders, cancers, diabetes. There are so many problems of this little tiny slice of people. And then you look at the billions of dollars around pushing this on people. It
Mhm.
really opened up my eyes to we live in the Weimar Empire, because this degeneracy has been known to be destructive and completely annihilative of health and possibilities in people for 100 years. And you have the entire establishment pushing it like it's the next new thing. Now, there's no way that people who work in health can't know what a tremendous detriment to physical and mental health the transgender path is, and yet they fucking push it anyway. And the people behind them funding them and the elites that lobby for this shit, they have to know what they're doing, because we've known what they were doing. We've known about this shit for like 80 years now. We've known how bad it is. And so
Well,
to
even
get
in Weimar, they had the gender clinics,
yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what books do you think they were burning in that famous picture, Gio?
It
Don't get me
was
started
the
on that
library.
shit.
It
Yeah.
was the Trans Library of Alexandria. You know, but no, but the
So
reason I like the thing is though, like I feel like yeah, the autism thing is also another the correlation there that is not talked about. I remember like this meme where it's like if you're a Zoomer with autism, you either become like a trans furry or you become like a future like a Death Squad commando. So it's
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
you know,
it's
no, but
these are your two paths. Choose wisely.
oh man, same if you read Nick Land, you either become like a weird xenogender or you become like a future Death Squad commando. So
Right, right.
no, but the reason I bring this up is because I feel like we do neglect. I mean, yes, we know that a lot of positions of censorship in tech companies and a lot of like people that make a certain organization anti you know what, and a lot of people that are political enemies that basically want to see us gone are, of this particular identity group. But
Yeah,
it is, I do feel like we get caught up in sort of like the moment of like calling them out that we don't realize the massive human cost here, and that perhaps when you look at it on a civilizational level and you look at people of the civilization being depleted by crazy medical science, it is crazy how like you have to realize that these people are just as much a victim. Like maybe not the people that push it, obviously not
no,
the
but the
the
people
people themselves
themselves,
on the ground.
they are heavily
Yeah,
victimized by
they're victims of the
institutional
medical
lies.
psychomedical industry. That
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And this is one of the reasons that I left and came back to Appalachia is my experience in Albuquerque. I was met with death threats, rape threats. People lied about me. They got me canceled at college. They got me thrown out of the community I was in, the activism community
Holy
I was part of.
crap!
They killed one of my dogs with poison. They tried to set my house on fire. They bashed my car to pieces and
What,
totaled my
'cause they
car.
thought you were one of them, but then you turned out not to be one of. Is that
Well, no,
yeah?
it's because of it was because of they accused me of being a Nazi. They accused me of being an anti-trans gatekeeper. They accused me of all the things under the sun, all the anti-white slurs you can think of to call me. They called me, and these radicalized. They weren't even trans, by the way. These radicalized shitlib retards and the army of quote experts around them. They breed this Antifa-like sentiment of all of the people in their orbit. And the people sending me threats and fucking my life up and bashing my car, they weren't trans people. They were radicalized anti-white shitlibs that viewed me as the enemy.
Man.
And that taught me a lot about what's going on in our culture, is that these people who are supposedly this awful victim group, if I was hurting them and they hated me and what I have to say, wouldn't they be the ones attacking me? No. The dozens of trans people and confused young queer youth that I helped, they thanked me. They loved me for speaking peace and truth to them and helping them take a wiser, healthier path. They weren't the ones sending fake emails about me to the college authority to get me removed. They weren't the ones poisoning my dog. It was these wild, radicalized, empty, hollow shells of people that have
that's
been...
like Helena. She gets death threats on the daily, like basically by these
It's
people.
messed up. It was really messed up. And so after all
But
of
this
that...
was in the community, the leftist community in Albuquerque that's there. Like, it was that...
Yeah.
Like, this was real life. I mean, you actually were like targeted in real life.
Yeah, no shit. And so that's why I had to leave. Is the anti-whites destroyed my life, and they killed one of my dogs, and they bashed my car. So it was like I could either stay there or I could leave. And so I left because I was like, I don't want to be here anyway. Because that 3 or 4 years there was extremely eye-opening for what was going on, not just with the world, but in our country and within our own racial dynamic of what it means to be a Westerner. And so I said, well, at least the people back in Appalachia know me. They love me. They accept me. They have values. We have a very...
Ironically enough, right?
And,
you know.
Well, here's the thing, though. People in this area, they never like hated me for being gender weird. They didn't do that. I wanted to go and see what the world was like anyway. I wanted to go on my Romspringa. And so I traveled all around the country. I've done a lot of different jobs and things. But eventually I came back to Appalachia, and I probably was going to anyway. But that was a good time to go ahead and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm going back to the mountains where my white ass belongs. I'm going back to live with the other hillbillies. So...
Man.
So here I am now, and things here are mostly like I left them. In a lot of ways, things here are still 1920s. You got local shops. I can buy meat and produce from local people who grow it and butcher it locally. I get farm fresh eggs for not much money. People around here still sort of try to arrange marriages with different families. It's a very healthy, wholesome community. Even though it's been shattered by modernity, there are still the vestiges of a really good, healthy ethnic bond here.
Well, I wanted to get to the Appalachian thing, but this is fascinating.
One of these days, we'll actually get to my interview of you, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, but what I mean is, no, but I mean, do they leave you alone now?
They always left me alone, by the way. I was never hazed. I was never beaten. I was never attacked.
Oh, no, I mean,
it is a misnomer. It is not a misnomer. That's the incorrect language. It is Hollywood fiction that hillbillies and Southerners hate gays and gay bash all the time.
That they're going around in their trucks and gay bash.
It is not like that at all. And they don't do it to blacks either. Like the kind of people that will hate a person for being gay and try to bash them, or hate a person for being black and try to bash them, they have always been reviled. And the stories that you get told growing up here in Appalachia is don't be like them, not because of progressive values, but because if you are evil and perpetrate evil, you are being satanic because you are usurping God's will. You're being very anti-Christian. You're being satanic by going out and choosing someone who is different or born weird or just a different race from you and then doing evil to them. It's always through a Christian lens here, and that is what is socially enforced. So one of the things we say in White Wellbeing is Hollywood isn't history. So everything that people know about what life is like here in Appalachia, if you've learned it from media and Hollywood, is completely wrong. You're never safer. If you behave yourself and you're nice, you're never safer than around a bunch of armed mountain hillbillies. As long as you don't act out, you're very safe with us. And that even if you're queer or non-white or whatever, you're very safe here as long as you don't cause problems.
Yeah, but there's that. Yeah, I do want to talk about a relationship, but getting back to the trans thing, I mean, it's always, I feel like, well, first of all, like, do those ghouls, they still harass you? That's what I meant. Or
Oh
they
no,
just leave you
that
alone?
was just like childhood school bullying stuff. No, like
No. I
teachers.
mean, like when you were doing the work and the Antifa people. That's what I'm referring to.
Oh, you mean when I left? When I left Albuquerque? Oh no,
Yeah, do they
I got
follow
tons.
you around on the internet? Like, do they
Yes,
A-log you?
for a few years they did. Yeah, they tried to torpedo everything. They made up stories about me about being all kinds of horrible stuff, like a thief and a rapist and all this other shit. And
What?
you know how they do. They
Holy
accuse you of
crap.
what they are. That's just how it always is. So
Yeah, I had one of these A-logs, but he got clipped. He like he's made up like because of Lev, my former. Well, he didn't consider me a co-host, but
yeah, I remember
because of
Break the Rules. I listened to Break the Rules a while, but then I just sort of weaned myself off of
yeah
it, like most internet content.
yeah. Well, it's a disaster now. But no, it's funny because like I'm connected to Barry Weiss and Stephen Miller in the
Mhm.
Republican Party from my basement in Akron. Like,
Weird.
it's really crazy. No, but anyways, yeah, because Lev would bring on these fair people,
Hmm.
the Barry Weiss normie centrist Barry Weiss containment zone people, and I'm
Hmm.
like, Lev, I don't like these people. Like literal Steven Pinker is a part of this group, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, Gio, like, listen, we have to like de-radicalize these people. I go, Lev, listen, your woke centrism is
I
not
mean,
gonna,
in
it's not
Lev's
gonna cut
defense,
it. Like, it's
in Lev's defense, he is Jewish.
no, well, oh, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know that. No, I'm kidding. But no, but I mean, I'm like, Lev, I don't like these people. He's like, no, Gio, it'll be good. I'm like, okay, well, then you'd like bring them on, and it'd be. Some of those streams were kind of funny though. You getting
Yeah,
like
no,
the
I listened
normie
to several of them
yeah,
years ago when you were on there. Like this is what 2 years ago now, like 2 years ago,
year and a half, 2 years.
year and a
Yeah.
half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to several of them, and that's where the first time I heard you actually speak at length was on one of those. I don't remember
Mm.
if it was the one that Prudentialist was on, but it was around that time.
Might have been
But
one where he was on. Yeah.
now
We had
is
a
a good time.
Davos person on once. That was wild. It was like staring into the abyss. It was no, actually, I shouldn't say it. The one time that I felt like I was staring into the abyss was when we had the Ayala stream. That was just like staring into the
Oh yeah,
abyss.
yeah.
Because
Let
she like
me
has so much autism. It literally is just
let
well,
me
you
read
could
something from the chat here before we move on. But
yeah,
we
go
do need
ahead.
to
Yeah.
move on here for sake of time. Ardent Party has known me for like 6 years, 7 years maybe. Ardent Party is a guy I met in the liberalist nebula around Sargon back in the
Oh,
post
nice.
Gamergate days on Facebook, and Ardent Party has known me long enough to remember he was a friend of mine years ago when I was just coming away from these Antifa transgender lunatics.
This is Facebook days right here. Yeah.
This is a long time ago. And this is a message he just put in chat. I remember those retards. Had several of them contact me when I was still on Facebook and tell me all kinds of crazy shit about Yiz. Too bad for them. I had open eyes and a good heart. Like, see, he even remembers they would spread rumors about me saying that I was like all kinds of stuff. I don't even know what they like. I would abduct animals and have sex with them, and I was a
What?
rapist. Like, they would
What?
say the wildest shit about me, like I was a murderer and all these other crazy things. And it was unreal the amount of psychotic Antifa, transgender, anti-white trash that these
You'd
people
figure
would
like you'd
circulate.
have an FBI jacket, right? You know
I
what I
know,
mean?
right? Like the way they talked about me, you'd think I was out there with a megaphone saying, "We got to go into the Capitol. We got to go into the Capitol."
Like you're Wild Bill like you're a Bill, like a Buffalo Bill or something. Like it's
Yeah,
yeah.
but
No,
let
but
me
the reason yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead. One more thing, and then I'm going to move us along. Go ahead.
All right. No, I was gonna say the reason I bring this up is because I feel like when it comes down to like I feel like people just live in reality tunnels nowadays, and there's never going to be a narrative by which you can convince true believers. So, for example, when you were at that gender clinic, you were helping, like, like to you and to like I think like a lot of sane people, you were basically giving proper medical information for people who are very,
Yeah,
um,
and they called
very
me a
much.
gatekeeping Nazi fascist for that.
That's what I mean. Like you, in your mind, you were essentially giving information to people who are very on the precariat nature, both mentally, economically,
Mhm.
culturally,
I was
people
trying to
that,
help them.
yeah, that were have all sorts of medical and mental health issues and all sorts of even financial and like real life issues with intimacy and so forth. Like I'm trying to use the leftoid language, but to them, you were essentially an anti-trans gatekeeper that was essentially
Right,
polluting people
because I
and
threatened the
convincing them.
orthodoxy. I threatened the
Yeah, yeah.
orthodoxy, and I pointed at the emperor having no clothes, and they hated me for that.
And so then you were essentially, quote unquote, denying them vital, life affirming care
Yes,
by
exactly.
saying that there are medical alternatives
Yep.
and mental health alternatives to that particular identity lifestyle, quote unquote. So there, I feel like the reality tunnel around the trans issue in particular is, I feel nowadays, too strong to the point where you know anything is like gender affirming, and anything that, and I do know that like it is kind of like mass lowest common denominator chud stuff that like people like James Lindsay or Matt Walsh do, but I
Yeah.
do feel like, you know, it is, you're never going to like convince them of the argument that no, actually it's not that we like hate people and want to oppress you, but rather we see that this is not something that is conducive to a person's flourishing for a variety of reasons, and a
Mhm.
variety of reasons that haven't actually manifested till you have whole bodies of the population that are subject to the psychomedical regime.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I mentioned the cancer rates might go up in the future.
Mhm.
Like, we don't know. There's so many
Yeah.
unknowns to it. You can only logically confer based on the data that we have. And so I feel like convincing them that, you know, it's sort of like the Christian argument of, you don't love people by enabling them. That is not real
Right.
godly love. That
Like,
is, you know what
if
I
you love
mean?
your cousin and he's got a heroin addiction, you don't help him by buying him heroin.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go, we're going to stop
The
here and actually get.
Appalachian thing, I'm very curious about, because I feel like the southern, like the people of the Appalachians in the South in America, uh, it's very interesting where you're trying to still hold on to your cultural heritage despite essentially, like, I truly feel like there was an, you know, a cultural and economic war
Mhm.
waged on the Appalachians in from the 70s
Correct.
onwards.
Yeah, and I
And
would talk to you about this at length, but I need to stop you
yeah,
here.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, we
I
should
would love to
talk
do a
again.
stream on your channel, and we can talk at length about
Yeah, maybe
me,
come in contact mine
Appalachia,
as well.
all of the trans intersex stuff I've been through. But I want to move this now that we've had some good back and forth.
Yeah.
I want to move it to the topic because what
Well,
we have
finally
just talked
interviewing me
about.
now. It's
Yeah, exactly. What we've
yeah.
talked about the last 45 minutes is exactly why I chose the title of this stream, The
Mm,
Art of Conversation. And I chose the song by Uberfolk, The Glorious Sunrise, because I love the lyric in it, asleep at heaven's gate. We are asleep at heaven's gate. Why do I say that? We have a breadth of marvelous technology available to us, whether it be medicine, mass communications, artificial intelligence, machine tooling, prototype tooling like 3D printing.
yeah.
We are asleep at heaven's gate. The people that are in charge want us to just push the dopamine button and have an endless amount of hedonistic experiences while we make them rich. We are asleep at heaven's gate. And the art of conversation is to help there be an awakening within the sleepers to move motivated people into a cultural unity of moving forward in a better, more moral, glorious way. And the way that we do this is with the art of conversation. We have to speak because words, language, that those are how you make ideas happen from your mind to another mind. It's the linchpin of mimetic warfare. And what you and I do, Gio, we are a fundament of culture. When you have intelligent people, creative people, people with dark pasts, people with experiences to share, when you have us coming together and using our charisma, our intelligence to share these ideas, we are painting on the canvas of society. We are creating cultural things that hopefully will lead to something better for the future of our people. What do you think about that?
No, you're really gassing me up here. No, um, no, yeah, that's true. No, I feel like okay. So there's two things that come to mind. There was this there was this one Twitter space I was in
Mm-hmm.
that had me noited a little bit because Eric Weinstein showed up. It was do you know Schwab Real Human on Twitter?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, he's like one of the best esoteric posters, one of the best substackers there is. Schwab
Oh
Real
man.
Human. Go to Schwab Stack. He's like, he drops fire all the time.
Well, you'll
But
have to
anyways,
you'll have to remind me on Twitter later. I don't want to get into it right now on stream, but that does sound like somebody I'd like to follow. Sounds great.
yeah, yeah. So we were on the stream, and like like you only go into Twitter space, and like you can't say no if someone invites you up. It's like, oh, So
Mhm.
I listen to a lot of spaces on my lurker alt because I notice spaces get people into trouble. But anyways, so we had this one space on this stupid Lex Friedman bookshelf, and I
Oh
said
God.
and I said my piece, and Eric Weinstein shows up. So I pieced it right off, and I logged into my alt account because like I'm getting out of here. I'm not. And
Uh-oh.
all of a sudden, the space went from 300 viewers to 1,000 viewers, and these people are nuts because literally, as soon as you poke the intellectual dark web people, like their fan base, they immediately revert to Antifa tactics. They immediately want to
Oh yeah. I
dox you, and
I have
like I'm
gotten
already doxxed,
I
but you
have
know what I
gotten a
mean. I don't
death
care.
threat. I have gotten a death
Yeah.
threat in a YouTube comment from a Sam Harris fan.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how psycho these people are.
Yeah, and so there was this one Janny for like the Eric Weinstein YouTube live streams that was like capped the space, and like it was crazy. So anyways, the reason I bring this up is because one thing that Schwab said, he said like a lot of people that are invested in like the biggest like quatrains that touch the normie sphere, like the dark web people, like Joe Rogan, Extended Universe, is that they always talk about discourse as if it's this property that they always like want to have, like Lex Friedman. I always want to have a conversation, right? But the
Yeah,
conversation,
but that's a
it's
lie when they say it. What they mean is
yeah,
they want to
yeah.
fill you with propaganda of orthodoxy that you can't question.
Well, this is what I'm getting at is that I feel like what we're doing is different in that we're willing to like engage in transgressive ideas
Hmm.
that do in the end have a grand vision of like what the future could potentially look like, right?
Yes.
And I know like the memes, as soon as you start talking about an idealistic plan, of course people immediately like, oh my God, you're saying millions must die? Like you saying the West has fallen and we must, a spinny wheel,
I'm
Chud
not
Jack,
saying millions
this,
must
that.
die. I'm saying that it's inevitable. Millions are going to die. We are not all
Oh
going to make
no,
it through the storm that's coming.
no, I feel like the plans that the people have for us is, I mean, even just by virtue of certain excesses of civilization, I feel like cannot, by definition, last in terms of the real, right? So, but the reason I bring this up is because the difference is that these people, they have this endless loop of contributing to discourse that really doesn't say a lot. Like I hate
Hmm.
to say it, like I hate to like drag up old drama, but a lot of like, I don't want to say like I'm pulling Richard Spencer. I don't want to say this, but a lot of like what Lev did was
Go
like
ahead and
this.
say it. It's okay.
No, but like a lot of like what Lev did, like even I watched recently this stream with Uber Boyo about the Andrew Tate thing.
Hmm.
It's like a lot of it's just asking questions that really, by definition, don't really go anywhere for a reason. And
Hmm.
I feel like people like the Lex Friedmans of the world and people below Lex Friedman, they really just they put people on this discursive loop that doesn't really affirm anything besides more podcasts. Whereas if you have like true writing, true art, true culture,
Hmm.
true ability to, even people that are like political activists and people that have technical knowledge that can potentially aid in like rival institutions.
Hmm.
Those people, like for example, my friend Bennett Demelich has created this organization called Exit, and he's like a Mormon, and it's mostly Mormons, but
Hmm.
it's about essentially an antitrust organization where if you are canceled and doxxed, then you have people that can get you a job, that can
Yeah.
support you. Like we need stuff like that. We need basically,
Yeah.
like in the art world, like it's all about patronage from my perspective. But the reason I bring this up is because I feel like when you talk about the like the way I like to view conversation is it should ideally have real world comportment, and it shouldn't be like
Yes.
Lex Friedman talking about literally nothing. Have you ever like I listened to like I think it was a Michael Malice Lex Friedman video. And it's like
Oh
literally
God.
just talking about nothing. Like Lex Friedman's asking you about nothing. It's like hearing an Obama speech or a Trudeau speech. It's like
If I
you
wanted to
can
hear Jews
say
kvetch about nothing, I'd listen to Fox News.
oh man. Well, even Fox News, like I never thought we'd live in a day
Or the Daily Wire, I suppose, is what I should have said. That's more topically relevant now.
No, but it's funny how the frogs have an ability to like move things forward in terms of discourse. Like I never thought I would like. I remember one day like hearing my old man watch this like Fox News clip on YouTube, and it was Laura Ingraham talking about how capitalism deracinates us. And I'm like, man, you would never hear this 10 years ago. Laura Ingraham, of all people,
yeah,
like basically, using frog talking points for right or for good. But
it's stuff we've been saying since the original alt-right back in the aughts.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I mean. Like, as much as I don't agree with the direction of a lot of those people, or even like I mentioned countercurrents, right? Like, as much as I don't agree with those people when it comes to like the current conflict or whatever, or like a lot of their takes on, like, Mark Dial talking about Deleuze back in like 2016, like that stuff was like, that's what got me going. Like, not that I was a big countercurrents reader, like I'm a big,
but no, it is kind of inspiring to see frog talking points being coming out of Tucker and Ingram's mouths.
Like
today.
a lot of those, like a lot of those original Arctos books publishing like the European New Right, where they were talking about like Deleuze and Foucault, like that's the stuff that I became more prominent of when it came to like engaging in like critical theory. And yes, I know that like a lot of the baggage that comes, especially like, like people know my history. When I was in grad school, a lot of my work was on Michel Foucault when I was in poli-sci. And like, I realized that a lot of the baggage that you have to like leave behind when it comes to like Foucault in particular, it's like, I don't agree. Like, again, I'm not saying, like, I'm not like defending every single thing that the man did or said, because like, let's face it, Foucault was like a, like, I don't have to go into the stuff about Tunisia. Okay. Like I know the stuff about San Francisco, the stuff about Tunisia. I'm not like, I do not endorse, I disavow, but it's like when you do spend a lot of intellectual work on a particular thinker, you have to take it for what it is. And, so my point is same with the alt-right, same with a lot of these figures. Like, as much as you don't agree with them, it's like, you do have to like look at,
Let's move from that idea to my second point about art, the art of conversation. People like them and the frogs and the 4chan alt-right and all of that, they are just one of the paints in your palette as an artist when you are the artist of conversation like you and I are. The other things are your highlight material, the oil or the chemical you have to put on your paper or your canvas to make the oil stick, the fan brush that you use to put highlights on your little Bob Ross trees. The different elements, the different paints, the different brushes that we have as conversators, spicy memes, funny videos, inspiring, uplifting messages, religious intonation, political intonation. These things are all used by the artist of the conversator to inspire and to create in others the same way that someone who paints a piece of art hopes to or thinks he can influence the people who look at the piece of art when he's done. And so in my work, I use spicy memes. I use edgy tropes. I also speak to spiritual, deep human truths that transcend religious dogma. I also speak about religion and use religious terms that my listeners will identify with and understand. Sometimes I'll rattle cages by saying things I know that will rub my audience the wrong way before then grabbing them with a solid point that will bring them back in and make them remember the entire thing. A good example is when I was on with Turnip years ago when he was first coming into the space.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you remember that one or not, but we were talking about religion and religious identity versus ethnic and nationalism, versus ethnos and nationalism as a way to shape the dissident movement forward. And when I told him I would be happy living in a based Christian confederacy or monarchy or whatever, I only care about the well-being of Western people and the perpetuation and safeguarding of the Western race, the white race. And he said, well, yes, I don't have any way. He's like, how will I know that what you are, how that you're not lying to me, and that if you use Christian nationalism or whatever to achieve your goals, you won't turn on us? And I said, well, it's pretty easy. I'll pledge myself to you right here. And I said in a very comedic voice, Heil Jesus. And it was absolutely hilarious in the moment, because a lot of the clack and the back and forth in chat was, making all these funny, the kind of jokes that they make about,
Oh, definitely.
mustache man and all of
Yeah.
that. Whenever anybody like me talks about white identity stuff, the memes that happen. So that was the nebula and the energy of what was going on at the time. So by me making that, in my opinion, very well crafted off the cuff joke, it made everyone remember that moment and see that I was serious enough about the subject matter to understand what it took to make that joke in the moment. But I was also using it to make people remember I will pledge myself to the ways of those who will provide for me and my race what we need. And if that happens to be Christianity, so be it. So I made a very good point in the moment with the entire palette of tools I had at my disposal. And so that's what I mean when I say the art of conversation. And I noticed that you do that. You're very good at weaving in important messaging, encouraging people to make wise choices, while also being topically funny and comedic at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like it's very well. It's very a lot of it's because I feel like the usual like dour like word cell, it's not gonna like cut it. I feel like if you have a way of like switching between different modes, like I think that's why I never like made it farther in academia, because they do like I mean I applied for PhD programs, but when you do have like a sort of different personality than the sort of like super deferential, dry type of personality that they selectively look for, then you're not going to like make it very far. Like there's a specific type of class and personality that most academics have. And then of course you have like the opposite, which would be like the totally unserious clown. Then you also have like the schizo in like, certain like ghettos
The
on the
schizo Fed
internet.
poster that we all know and love.
Yeah, exactly. That like basically shit tests you all the time. And it's not like, that's not my scene. Like that's not my bag. Or like the sort of, without naming names, like the sort of like cult leader personality that it's like you either have to like ride or die with me. Like I'm a very loyal person, but I don't really like vibe with that. Like, cause I'm kind of like I'm a bit more easygoing, even though like I do have my own like, anxiety issues or whatever. I like the whole like you must defer to me at all costs and you can never challenge me. Like that's the type of shit that like I've never been a part of. Partially I would admit because it's like a defense mechanism, because I feel like if I was like a testy asshole, like a certain person I was friends with at one point that of a certain a certain thing of ironies, when you start to like,
of whom we won't name.
yeah. No, not Lev, a certain other frog that was. Anyways, if you're like a person that just like spirals out of control because you're addicted to Adderall and you're like you care so much that people are calling you a fat ass, and it's like you start to just like go nuclear on people, then it's like never gonna pan out for you. I feel that's because especially like if you're constantly aware of the fact that you do have like weight issues and you're like in a space that's very like much about vitality and health, and even like as I'm trying to like as I approach 30 years old, trying to like better myself and like really to take my own health seriously after years of neglect, it is like you do start to think differently on things, and you do realize the importance of viewing your own existence as a wholly integrated being. So when you talk about the art of conversation, it reminds me of this article where, ironically enough, being an interview itself, it was an interview with one of my favorite contemporary thinkers. I think one of the most valuable living philosophers today, Byung-Chul Han. He says that he approaches writing, and when you do read his books, actually, they are like this. He approaches the art of philosophy as an art form, as the way a fine artist would approach a particular piece that is a standalone entity that is in itself something you engage with, you move on from, you sort of have a dialectic within a very sort of confined space. And when you do read a Byung-Chul Han book, the chapters themselves, they're these sort of to the point and shorter essays that form a collection in a book that you can engage with, you could read on their own, you could like sort of hop between the chapters, right? So I feel like that's the way I've approached the way I set up a podcast or a conversation in that there's always I'm always aware that there's a sort of a drama to it in the sense of it being laid out uh, a laid out entity that has rises and runs, that has a form of a structure that is free flowing, but has moments and moods within them that can go up and go down. And it's sort of like when you have a good guest that you click with, there's always like a way of connecting with someone where you do share, in a way, a mutual form of storytelling or a
Right.
mutual narrative
It's
to a
like
podcast.
you're helping tell a story. It's like you're both a painter and a storyteller for a role playing game
Yeah,
at the same
yeah,
time. And you're the canvas upon which you're painting, or the backdrop of your story, is real human life.
yeah.
And I
There's a
think that's
dance to it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's a narrative and there's a dance to it. It's very similar to. I think I used this example before, but it's almost like in wrestling. One of my favorite wrestlers in Japan is Hiroshi Tanahashi, and he
Mhm.
says that he likes to. This is when he was fighting Kenny Omega back in like a few years ago, when he won the title, and of course like Omega left for AEW. He said that he structures his matches the way that you have in traditional Japanese storytelling, which is 5 different modes of storytelling within each story. That's it comes from no theater, it comes from a lot of
Oh, cool.
ancient Japanese art forms. And so so it's kind of different than Western, like Disney, like when you're in English class when you're a kid, and it's like they teach you like the Disney pyramid, right? The triangle, which is like there's there's like a rise and a run, there's like a
Mhm.
climax. It's different in that there's a bit more of breathing room in that narrative that you have in, like, for example, no theater. Whereas like the Disney film is like the Disney Western Hollywood narrative device, which is that triangle, is very much like monosyllabic. It's very much like one thing that must conform. There's a climax. There's like eventually a climb down. There's like that plot point triangle is restrictive. But I feel like in the art of podcasting and conversation, there has to be a sort of different modes of like relief and
Mhm.
climax, and there's
Yeah.
sort of different moments that is um, very
I could
much like
I could do an entire
yeah,
series on the art of the natural segue.
yeah, exactly, right. There's segues, there's moments of like cliffhangers, there's a bit of like there's business that's like left without saying, but you don't say it. Like it's very much a living and breathing, I would even say like postmodern form of narrative compared to most like narrative like Hollywood films or whatever. Like I feel like people don't actually analyze what they're doing. There's so many podcasts nowadays. Everyone and their brother has a podcast, but they don't really examine like the meta behind it and why people are so sucked into them.
Well,
It is
that's
I
and
don't feel
that's
it's just like human conversation. Like there is like a parasocial nature to like people, like friends are talking and I feel like they're my friends if I listen to them enough, but yet there's still like something behind it that does approach like a storytelling device. Sorry, I cut
yeah.
you off. Yes,
And
yeah,
no, that's fine. I was just going to say this ties into you brought up everybody and their brother does a podcast. Well,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
because think about it. The with Within art or within comedy or within any type of expressive creative field, imitation is the highest form of flattery. Now, why does that phenomenon hold true? Because ape sees something ape like, ape imitate. That's how humans
Yeah,
do. That's how humans do. So clearly, those of us who are and I'm going to toot my own horn here and be a bit elitist, but those of us who are charismatic enough, intelligent enough, and artistic enough to be very good at the gift of gab and weaving beautiful art pieces of conversational podcasts, we are imitated by the masses because of how successful and desirable we are. And I think that's why the conversations that whether it's Millennial Woes, whether it's the Countercurrents guys, whether it's Academic Agent, whether it's the Lotus Eaters over there in England with Sargon, or even Joe Rogan, for example. This is why we have sort of taken over the social sphere as entertainment, is because this is a meaningful, artistic, and inspirational art form of human society that has not yet existed because of the technological limitations. And so
Well, it
we are
did.
at
We
the
had minstrels, we had storytellers, but that's the different. I know what you
yeah,
mean.
but you can't.
Yeah.
But like a minstrel in rural Wales can't sing to someone who lives in Cambodia like you
Oh,
can today.
true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I say that we are seeing now the beginnings of whatever the skein that word skein. I'm assuming you're an academic. You know the word.
I think I've heard
The
of this. Yeah.
skein is like the medium or the straight in which you're viewing something or that gives something its shine or its look.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
the skein in which we are in now is the fabric of culture, and in that telluric space that we exist in, it is up to us to guide people to make the choices and to have the inspiration necessary for what we think should be culturally relevant next. And I want a healthy moral white identity. I want a rejection of the quote unquote expert class, a rejection of managerial elites, and an embrace of real natural order again. And so those of us in the dissident spheres that we are in, we are quote unquote painting to inspire people along those lines. And so we are the ones we're the Goebbels here. We're the propagandists. We're the ones behind the
Oh,
ideas and mimetic words
Ministry of
that
Public Enlightenment.
that hopefully will shape what's coming next. And that's why my last guest was old Cringewalker about his awesome ministry stuff that he's got going on, because he is someone who's also at the forefront of this art of conversation and memology. So he also is a good warrior in the old meme war, so to speak. So that's why I believe what I do about the art of conversation and why
Yeah.
what we do is valuable, even though it might be a little fart smelly to talk about why we are important. It does seem like we are the most important thing because, like you said, everybody wants to listen to podcasts all day long now. It's just sort of what people do.
Let's face it, is a friendship simulator, but like that's
It is, but
Yeah.
I mean that's the evolution of cultural society, right?
You know, I thought I had this idea. I should tell Prude this, where like, okay, when you interact with the group chat, that's different, but also like I had this idea of doing like a mock podcast that's like a narrative, but like you would take breaks where you like ask, like, you know how you talk to your friends, you ask them like, what do you think of that, bro?
That's
What
kind
do you
of
think
you
of
to
that?
that's kind of you to assume I have friends.
No, but you know what I mean. But like, no, but it's like you take these breaks where you pretend that you're talking to someone. So then it would be like this next level, like art performance of parasociality, where you would like take breaks. So you like pretend that the audience member is your friend. And so it's like, what do you think of that, bro? And you like stare into the camera, and it's like,
Oh my goodness.
you know, it'd be like ASMR, like ASMR, but like with podcast, it would be so cruel though. Like I would never want, but like as an artist, my mind goes there, you know. For
Now, as a parody, as like a joke stream, that would be a
yeah, it
fun
could work.
format. But no, not
Yeah,
not like in
like what do you think of
seriousness. I
that,
wouldn't.
bro? And you like look into the camera. It's like, what?
And
Oh, hey
have a
man,
nice
that's a
break the
great
fourth
point.
wall
And you
moment.
like, yeah, you like pause and you're like, oh yeah, man, that's a good point. It's like you like pretend. It's almost like being like a OnlyFans, like pretending that the audience is like point of view. Like never, I shouldn't even mention this one, but like it's like, you know, point of view, like you pretend. Like these cam girls, like pretending that the audience is fucking them or whatever. Like it's
I don't know anything about that, Gio. That is alien to me. I'm sorry.
yeah, I shouldn't pollute this stream with that. But you know, no, but it would be like an intellectual version of like pretending that your favorite podcaster is your friend. It'd just be it would just be too like insidious. I wouldn't want to do it. But it's like as an artist,
You could
it's
even
a
have
very funny.
little orthodox censors of Geo bathwater you could sell.
Oh God, yeah. No, it would be like some kind of like masculinity grift. It would be like, I don't know, it would be like beard grease, like something like that, beard grease or whatever. But no, but yeah, bathwater.
Who's that Goldman grifter with the infamous beard meme? Who was that guy? Jack something? Jack Murphy. That was it.
Yeah.
You could be
Oh
like
man, Jack Murphy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
That would be quite the joke.
I don't have the heart to unfollow him on Twitter. I'm like, oh man, like I feel. I almost
You're
feel
too kind, Gio. You're too
yeah, I
kind.
feel too bad. I kind of feel bad for him a little bit, but like
I
I know
don't.
like no, he did he basically yeah, like I we actually interviewed him on Breakthrough Rules.
I remember.
You know what's funny though is that when you do talk to him, like, okay, and not to, like, again, not to bash. Well, I mean, he did like lead people astray. So my friend Fen was like
And
really
he's a
pissed
Jew, so
off.
there's
Wow,
that
yeah,
too.
yeah. Like my friend Fen was like, he was fucking furious because that was like one of the first like Fen interviews with was with Jack Murphy. So
Oh my
no,
goodness.
but yeah. So, but actually, if you want to see a good Fen interview, go to my channel where I did 3 hours for free, not buying the paywall because it was my Christmas present. It was
Oh
right
wow.
before Christmas. So 3 hours with Fen de Villiers. I'm planning another thing with him and my waifu for lifu, gifts and given. So, anyways, uh, no, but Jack Murphy, when you actually talk to him like on stream, he like I think like Cernovich was also on that stream. Like it was really weird. Like he'll like put up this front of like this like I'm masculine, like I'm teaching you, and it's kind of weird. Like when you're like, bro, we're just having a conversation. Like it's not like, you know what I mean? Like
No, I
it's,
don't.
well, it's like, you know when someone, you could tell that they're putting a face in front of you.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
you
Yes.
just mean that. Yeah. No, I definitely know. I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm masculine. I'm like talking to you, like I'm talking like sort of down to you. It's
Mhm.
like I felt like the vibes are all off, and this was before all the scandal happened, right? So the vibes were just off. But anyways, no, but what I was gonna say is what I was gonna say is, okay, the friendship simulator. No, but there's a reason why podcasts are very big and prominent, is because in this reality that we're living in, there's like sort of a way in which technology can deliver what was once normal human interaction, but through like a mediated form. And the reason like people like listen to podcasts just like on loop on the background is because, yes, there is like the negative parasociality, but also I feel like if you have people that are intelligent enough that can express their ideas and that can sort of more or less be comfortable with being on in some ways, like I think that's why people listen to me, because I know then they know like I'm always on, whatever on means. Like it's like I like to
Yeah.
keep it real. Like I like to,
Yeah.
like, this is my personality, even though like
I,
maybe in real
and
life there's
again, it might sound
differences.
arrogant, but I sort of feel like I'm switched on too. Like I
Yeah.
get things, and I feel like I understand a lot of what's going on and can speak on that in a way that I
Oh, I
think
mean the
can reach
performance
people.
aspect of it, but yeah, there's that aspect of being on as well. But like there, I don't think Uber folk meant this, but I was gonna mention about the song,
Mhm.
like we're sleeping at Heaven's Gate. They
Mhm.
didn't probably mean like Heaven's Gate, right?
No, 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 no.
Sleeping at Heaven's Gate, like
That was a deep lore cut right
the
there. A deep
Nike
lore.
runners sleeping at Heaven's Gate. Man, that's so
I'm
weird.
certain they didn't mean that one.
Yeah, it is funny though, sleeping at Heaven's Gate.
I
You know what's funny?
even brought up the Kool-Aid analogy earlier.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't even well, in their case it was a mix of, I believe, vodka and applesauce and some barbiturates, and they choked themselves. No, never. I should probably for
Okay, let's move
YouTube.
on from that. It's too
I
dark. It's too
shouldn't.
dark.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Actually, wasn't when it came to Jonestown. It was actually Flavor Aid. It was like the cheap knockoff
Oh, okay,
of
okay. That's enough
Kool-Aid.
deep
Yeah,
lore about
but
something awful.
people.
Let's move on.
Yeah, that was a CIA operation. Hey, there was this. I remember reading this Usenet forum archive where this CIA agent, he claimed that he actually was part of the mission, where it was about they would take like the Angolan guerrillas like UNITA, and they would help like cover up a lot of the bodies. That's why like
That's
they only
interesting.
thought,
That
yeah, they
doesn't
said,
surprise me because I know the CIA is
yeah.
involved with a lot of weird cults and regime change stuff
Well,
all
they
throughout.
had direct ties to Jim Jones. They had,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm not
and so
surprised by that.
for example, when the Marines, they actually sent the Marines to collect the bodies because this was after Vietnam, and they were still operating in different regions of the global South, especially in Africa. And they said that they originally counted 400 people, but then they counted 900 people because there was a way in which the bodies were layered that couldn't have been just by people dropping on the
Hmm.
ground, but it was because there was signs where people were physically moving the bodies on top of each other. There's this really weird thing. And also, he went into drug running, how they discovered this drug that the people in various tribes in South America were using that may have been a predecessor to crack cocaine. Like it was really weird schizo post. I mean, I believe it, but
that is interesting, but not at all
Yeah.
on the topic. So
no, of course, yeah.
I'm going to take
Jay
this
Dyer
moment.
did a deep dive on Jim Jones. So yeah.
I like Dyer's stuff. He's pretty good sometimes.
Yeah.
I'd like to remind everyone, we only got about 17, 18 minutes left because I got to get out of here. And this stream is supposed to be 2 hours, and we're already at the hour 40 mark.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to remind everyone, I will do community engagement. So if you have things you want to say to me or Gio or ask us, get those in now on Odyssey, Entropy. And of course, those are like your regular super chat style stuff. You can also send in on Cash App and PayPal if you like, or you can send a tip with the message over on Subscribestar. But we will be wrapping up here in about 20 minutes. So if you have things you want to ask or say, get them in now.
Yeah, I have a PayPal too, as well, as long as with my Patreon and
indeed
Substack,
you do.
buy me
So
a
what I was
coffee.
going to say is, I'm going to share your link tree in all the chat right now. Go hook up with Gio there. He is definitely worth your time and your money. He is definitely worth listening to and being inspired by. And I think he's cool. I consider him a friend in these spheres. And I would like to take this time now for you to show yourself and tell people why they should come follow you and what they can expect and what it is you offer as a content creator to entice them to go follow you.
Yeah, so now if you're not comfortable with giving me money on Patreon, I have my PayPal as well as a buy me a coffee for like one-time donations, but I now make all of my archive available on Substack. And so they use Stripe. It's very easy to use if you have a Substack account.
Stripe's a good service. I recommend.
I believe the only reason that they use Stripe exclusively is because they don't like kick people off like compared to other payment processors. But
not yet anyway.
Not yet, yeah. So all my archive, the reason you should subscribe is because most of all of the content mindeds and all of the reviews and other things that I do, they're all available public. But the uncensored and full versions of that, like I would say, like maybe 40 minutes to an hour extra, usually an hour extra of content, is on Patreon and Substack now. And I do make the free downloadable and RSS versions available on Substack, because Substack is this neat neat feature where you can give a preview to your free subscribers, and then they could choose if they want to do the paywall version. So,
that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's neat. I'm gonna have to start using Substack too. Everybody else is.
Oh yeah, I downloaded my whole archive on Substack. Also, I do Anchor and Spotify. So if you want to listen and download my stuff, the free versions are always available as a audio only version on on Anchor, Spotify, and Substack. So yeah, so that's all my links, and of course, give Yiz your money as well. Get in those super chats.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So far, we've had nothing. It's a big goose egg today. Nothing on any platform, which is surprising because I have a solid number of viewers. We hit almost 100 live viewers at peak. And usually we have at least 5 or 6 super chats for the not super chats because I'm not monetized, but
you know what I noticed? Like people like in the middle of the day, they're not willing to give super chats, but by the time you get around like 2 o'clock, like when me and Prude do it, or by the time you get to nighttime, then people it's like people are willing to give you their money at night.
They're busy working and don't have time to do it. They're like their hands are busy.
They're probably listening at work and like they're probably like trying to romance the dog. I can't say
Well, that's fine. I do this for more than just money. So I don't
by
mind.
the way, fuck the dog. Never heard that express. Or my favorite one comes from Tourette's guy when it comes to wasting time. It's go count your dick. You remember the Tourette's? The Tourette's guy goes, go count your dick.
I've never heard that before. That's great. That's great.
I love those euphemisms for wasting time. I love it. When you grow up around construction, you know a lot of them. So yeah.
Well, Gio, I would love to do more with you. You're
Yeah,
familiar with
sure.
my Discordant Dragon streams on Monday evenings. You're definitely welcome to come laugh it up and have a great time with us and others, or with me
Dragon
and
streams, is
others.
that like some dragon furry type of? I want to be a part
Oh
of
hell
that.
no, no.
No, I'm kidding.
It's called Discordant Dragons, and it's basically like unpopular opinions with a little tiny sprinkle of game show on top of it.
Wasn't there a furry called Discord Dragon or that got outed as? Never mind, never mind.
I have no idea. That's the first I've heard of that. But
some Turkey Tom video about it. Never no. No, I'm thinking of Tumbles the Stair Dragon. Do you remember Tumbles the Stair Dragon?
No.
Okay, back in 2007, there was this furry, and they called him Tumbles the Stair Dragon because apparently I can't describe this thing for YouTube, so don't worry about it. Just let's move on from.
Oh, thank God.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, Discordant Dragons is fun. We review 5 current topics of the news media, and then we have memes, funny videos, or just things that I like that I want to share. And it's only around 2 hours, and it's a lot of fun. And so people like Jay Burden and Prudentialist and Semiagog and Don the Pleb and Aiden Paladin.
Maybe I'll join one day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And my upcoming guests coming up are going to be Hunger Merchant, Todd of Praise of Folly's coming back. Jay Burden's coming back again. We're going to have Aiden Paladin on in a week or two.
Nice.
I have on a lot of people in the.
I streamed with Aiden a number of times. Yeah.
Oh, she's lovely. I really like Aiden. She's a lot of fun. And but you're invited to do that. And I also want.
Oh, by the way, I think I'm on with Jay. I'm on with Jay Burden tonight. So.
Oh, fantastic! I'll do my best to hop in and listen if I can. But I wanted to tell you why I've got your ear here. I really like the streams that you do with Prudentialist. I've listened to several of them. And if you ever want me to come onto your channel and do anything, whether it's just talk about Appalachia or talk about
we could
what
do
it's
that
like,
with Prude. Yeah, I think maybe you'd be better for Digital Archipelago if we're talking about.
I think so.
Because he grew up in the South too, so it's like, well, I mean, is Texas the South?
And if you wanted to have me on specifically to talk about what it's like on the inside of the progressive wing of trans indoctrination, I can speak at length about any aspect.
I mean,
of that
I probably would have to paywall that version, but that
probably.
portion of the.
But I'm still willing to do it if you'd like me to, because
Sure.
I love having these kinds of conversation with people I like you and Matthew and the others. So anytime you want to have me on for something like that, let me know. I would love to do it anytime, and I'll do my best to make it work with my schedule.
Is Texas the real South?
Sort of, yeah.
It's the South. Oh, look at bourgeois beating. No, it's the South. I love when Southerners like, no, we're the real South. Like, no, not those Yankees in the Carolinas.
If you're wanting to talk about what the real Confederate South is, I would say it is a strip of land and cultural geography from like West Virginia, Kentucky, down through Eastern Tennessee, sweeping through the edges of North and South Carolina, and then moving over towards Arkansas through Northern Alabama and Georgia. That's pretty much the real Confederacy that's left is like Appalachia and the foothills thereof. That's pretty much the real Confederacy left. But remember, it's called the volunteer state here in Tennessee because we're the ones who went and sort of made Texas. That's why we have a similar accent and we have a lot of similar cultural tropes. So I do consider Texas part of the real South.
Yeah, I have a friend actually who I went to grad school with who's from Tennessee. So shout out to my friend Bob. He'll probably listen. I wonder if he listens to this. Probably.
I hope he does.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, I remember the first time we ever met. This was like back in 2016. Our first conversation was about Baron Evola, Heidegger, and Chris Chan. Not in that order, but because he made the mistake of asking the question, who is Chris Chan? And then it just became like a 3-hour conversation in between classes about Chris Chan.
Oh no.
He's like, Gio, I can't believe you ruined me. So yeah.
Oh, if knowing about Chris Chan ruins you, then you need to lurk more because there's far more horrible shit going on.
Oh man. So shout out
But anyway, before we get out of here, we did have one paid chat come through over on Entropy. It's Corbin Ransley. Hello, Corbin. I recognize you from a lot of chats.
Oh yeah, Corbin. He's the first to comment on all of my content-minded episodes.
Yeah, I've seen Corbin in a lot of the chats that I visit. Yeah. And thank you for being here on my channel, and definitely thank you for the $20. I really appreciate that. That's a nice big donation. Thank you.
Whoa,
he just says
$20. Let me do it.
$20.
$20. I totally ripped that from PPP. It's from one fat Canadian to another, you know. Oh man.
But anyway, he just says good stuff and gives a little salute. Thank you very much. I do my best to have quality conversations that not only are fun to listen to, but will hopefully give you good ideas and encourage you to take action in your life to build culture and build identity, because that's what the anti-whites have taken from us. And we need to engender healthy values and art and expression around the things that will carry us forward and build a healthy Western identity for us. So thank you, Corbin. I deeply appreciate that. So I know that you've asked me a lot of questions, and we sort of had the first half of the stream more of you interviewing me. But like I always do at the end of my streams, at the end of my Corner Club segments, I always ask my guest, is there any one thing that came up during the stream that you want to ask me about before we end things here today?
Well, that's kind of a moot point because you
already did.
Yeah. So maybe you should go to the ledger again and see what you wanted to ask me.
No, I actually I didn't have a specific question to ask you.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to bring up the topic of the art of conversation and why it's important with you, because I felt you were the perfect person to have this discussion with.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to say, because in some ways, when it comes to discourse, there's always like, and again, this is like another thing that Byung-Chul Han is well known for, is the erasure of the other. So, for example, when it comes to much older forms of society and the way that mediums inform society, for example, when you have like a highly literate print media and then television media society, you have around the turn of the century, the turn of like the last century, you have the sort of the fin de sec, the sickness of the century, where you have like anxiety, social malaise. Like, it's funny how like everything that we experience now, in some ways there were like proto versions of them in the past. So you have the sickness of the century around the 19th and 20th century. You have like young people that feel very like bohemian and nihilistic and don't really see like the point in like quote unquote contributing to society that has like largely left them behind. And so you have like for example, when we're talking about the optics war, I mentioned this with Prude. You have even like in the 80s, you have like Dr. Pierce talking about, we got to get these yahoos out of it. It's like, not that I endorse, like, listen, not for those who are listening, not that I endorse William Luther Pierce, but I'm just saying, like, it's funny how even back then in the 80s, there was like the optics war among like these like white
I have my own opinions about Pierce, but I'll keep them quiet for now.
No, but I'm saying, like, not that I co-sign everything. I'm just saying, like, as a funny example, how like he had this whole lecture. I believe it was on the like SPLC website or YouTube channel, which is like, here's the evil, terrible Austrian painter William Luther Pierce, and like, what is he talking? He's talking about the optics, about like, the stereotypical like American History X like skinhead.
Yeah.
Like, the believer type of like skinhead going out and like doing petty street violence and selling drugs and like, like it's funny like how like it's funny how like you have like the whole like SPLC or ADL like here's this evil, terrible, and what is he talking about? He's talking about, wow, we can't have like these unoptical people in our movement.
It's like they beat people up. It's like, hey, look at this guy who is literally Hitler, and then he's literally saying, guys, we shouldn't be Hitler. It's so funny, how ridiculous the anti-white narrative is. It's
and when they don't turn off the comments, you have like people like university in the comments like, whoa, this is based like it is funny though. I feel like, again, this is about ironic detachment. I feel like ironically people, like every time you have like a history video about like World War II or whatever, like you'll see the comments, it's like,
oh, I know.
it's like, man,
sometimes the comments are lit.
No, but I feel like a lot more people like just resonate with like things that are like more right wing but are done in like a more tasteful manner, that aren't like totally out there. Like even like I've even seen like normies on TikTok literally talk about the Chudjak memes, millions must die. Like that's how like as soon as it hits nowadays the TikTok sphere, but anyways, I was mentioning about the nature of the media, right? The medium, and how it influences people's mindsets and dispositions. So back in the day, you have the anxiety about the other, right?
Yeah.
Like the other is a particular panoptical gaze that is influencing myself, whether it be government, whether it be the final like overturning of religiosity in the 20th century in terms of like the Western world and its influence on society. Or you also have the other of like social groups. The other becomes the big philosophic question, right? But nowadays, what Byung-Chul Han says that that's an older model of biopower. That is very much like the gaze of the other. Nowadays, the other becomes erased because through technology and through what Byung-Chul Han calls psychopower or psychopolitics, you can essentially create the other as an image of yourself. And so you could basically surround yourself through a pantheon of mirrors all the time. And I feel like the reason podcasts are popular is because they feed into that illusion of the other being erased and becoming yourself. This is why the way I conduct them is I have to be aware of the fact that I essentially am an echo chamber reverberation device for a lot of people. But if I could like break people out of that reality and sort of like bring people to an awareness of like a different artist or a different thinker or a different take than the usual, like, you know, what usually passes as like orthodoxy in the quote unquote sector or the scene. But to do it in such a way where you don't devolve into like being like a logo Atlas or a thinker of ironies where it's like you totally counter signal everybody. It's like I have to have the most counter signaling take to be original. Like I think there has to be a, you know, like without naming names, right? Like apart from those two, like there's other people that do this that I do respect, even though like I wouldn't want to like publicly speak against them. But I know that they like a lot of people like that are around us, they do sort of have like that contrarian brain, right?
Yeah.
So you can take that ability to be a contrarian. Like I think Academic Asian does this very well.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
And you can
he is also
content
someone
out
who
of
would have
it.
been a good guest for this topic, but
Yeah.
He's hard to it's hard to even get on his stream, let alone talk him into coming to mine.
Yeah, exactly. He's harder to get than the president.
Yeah.
You know, that was a line from Casino. You're tougher to get than the president.
All you have to get the president is a bunch of Chinese money or a good smelling 10-year-old.
Oh boy. Did you see the Trump AI voice edit of the Epstein Island one?
Oh no, I don't want to get sidetracked.
It's so disgusting, but it's hilarious. Like,
I'm sure it is.
The way
I'm
it keeps
sure it
accelerating, like it's.
Oh Jesus. But anyway, brother, thank you for being here with us today. It was a wonderful time. I would love to do more with you in the future. We'll definitely be in touch. And remember, invite me on for anything you want me to do. I love streaming with others, and I do my best to always contribute to anything I'm invited to. So thank you so much for being here and sharing with me. Before we get out of here, we do have something from Spasticus Autisticus over on
my good friend,
Yes, good old Spasticus Autisticus, whom I really appreciate his paid chats over on Academic Agents channel. They're always fun. Spasticus Autisticus for $5 says, you see, the joke is that the previous owner's name was Chuck. If you maintain the rhyme, Sneed's feed and seed becomes, well, you can put the rest together.
Chucks, yeah.
Oh, that's
such
good.
a legendary shit post. Yeah.
Well,
you know what's
thank
funny?
you, Spasticus.
He guided me to this one like book that was collectively written by Lit on 4chan. It's like the most like devastating schizo literature. I think it's called Spasticus, put it in the chat. I forget the name. I have the PDF saved. But
if you can share the PDF with me on Discord or Telegram or something, I'd like to see it.
It's one of these like monstrosities that you found. It's like collectively written by Lit. And so it's got a bunch of like different
Is it schizo like Time Cube, or is it less schizo than that?
It's kind of like the narrative just all over the l'ennemi, yeah, exactly, l'ennemi, like that is
okay.
L'ennemi, like that. You look up l'ennemi by 4chan, and it's like I wrote part of it. Oh my God!
Says,
you wrote part of it.
He wrote part of it. Did you really? Did you really write part of that? That's amazing, Spasticus.
I believe it. Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, a big salute to you, Spasticus Autisticus.
Now I gotta review it one day. Maybe up behind the paywall.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. That's definitely paywall material right there.
Well, me and Crude had this idea of a
Speaking of
paywalling.
behind the wall, we're about to hit the wall on time. I have an
Oh.
appointment I have to get to. Sorry.
Oh, no
I have to
problem.
cut this off now. But I had a wonderful time with you, Gio. We'll definitely do it again soon. Thank you all for listening and helping share the stream and helping me become the creator that I am today. Thank you for those who financially donate on the regular over on Subscribestar. And of course, thank you to those who sent in donations today, Corbin and Spasticus. Gio, any tidbit of wisdom you want to leave on the way out the door?
I don't know. Put me on the spot. Don't let your memes become dreams. No, that's so stupid. Don't let memes become dreams. Yeah, go out and seeketh, but do not let into your heart the darkest of black pills and the most schizo of schizo on the internet. So always be intellectually curious, but sometimes certain things you shouldn't let into your heart, but you should have a cold, intellectually detached, purely sociological observation of a certain phenomenon on the internet. So
well said. Well said. All right. Well, thank you again, Gio. Everyone have a great week. You're very welcome, my large friend. I look forward to us having many more streams together in the future. And I'll be back next Monday night. Maybe Gio will be here. Maybe he won't, but there will definitely be fun, knee-slapping, and informational infotainment on Discordant Dragons next Monday night at 6 p.m. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless.
God bless and good.